So hello everyone who have joined the stream right now. A first question to you guys is, if you can hear and see the picture well, could you please write it down in the chat? You will help me a lot. Hello guys, hello everyone. Yeah, thanks very much, Nadezhda. So we have started the stream a little bit earlier, so we're going to start in 4 minutes. Thanks a lot. Dara, thanks a lot. Meanwhile, using a chance, I will show you a little bit of the Moscow city center and the beating heart of Moscow, which is Red Square. Hello everyone who joined the stream. Warm welcome to our tour. We are going to start in a few minutes, so please stay with us. Hi guys, hello, hi. So just 2 minutes left and we are going to start. A warm welcome to all who already joined the stream. One minute left, and we are going to start. Hello everyone who joined the tour. Okay, here we go. So it is 6 p.m. in Moscow already. So we are going to start our tour. So hello everyone who joined the stream. My name is Masha and I'm locally from Moscow. Today we are going to make a tour with you from the city center of Moscow City. And actually we are very lucky with you in terms of the weather because it's super sunny here and very warm. I even managed to get some face sunburn. So most probably we had to name the tour Red Face on Red Square. So who knows, maybe next time. So what I'm going to start from, guys, is that I really value your time and appreciate your attention to the project. So that's why I'm not going to tell you some boring facts and stories, or maybe some particular dates and centuries, or the names of the Russian kings, which are very hard to pronounce even for me, because for my opinion, this is what never stays in your memory. But what I'm going to share with you today is some very interesting stories and facts about the city. And in particular, I will tell you what is the similarity between Red Square and Beautiful Woman. Or I'm going to tell you why one of the domes of St. Basil's Cathedral have thorns. Or what for and why Moscow citizens donate not money but their old toys. So all this you are going to find out with me in this 1-hour tour across Moscow city center. Moreover, I'm going to share with you some very useful tips, which are, for example, where you can try in the Moscow city center the tastiest ice cream in all the city, only for €1. So this you are going to find out during our tour. Stay with us and enjoy. Before we start, I would also like to pay your attention that I really welcome your questions. So if you want to find out something not only about the tour itself, but also about Russia or Moscow in general, so you are warmly welcome, super welcome to write down your questions in their chat right here, and I will try to answer them as soon as possible. So let's start. It's 2 minutes past. Welcome everyone who joined the tour. My name is Masha. I'm locally in Moscow, and today we are going to make a tour with you around Moscow city center. So welcome everybody. Just a final check in terms of their connection of the voice and picture. Please write down if you can hear and see me well, and we are going to start. Welcome everyone to this tour around Moscow city center. So please write down if you can hear me well, and we will start with you from the very beginning. Meanwhile, I will switch my camera. Everything goes super. Thanks so much, Natalie. Okay, so I will start from the beautiful panorama of Russian Red Square and of course highlight the main buildings of this beating heart, not only of Moscow but in Russia itself. So here is St. Basil's Cathedral, a very well-known Spasskaya Tower, a big walls of Kremlin with the Lenin's mausoleum in the middle. Then we can see the State Historical Museum. And the last but not the least is the marvelous GUM department store. So here is the main highlights of the Red Square. So what I want to mention here is that, of course, now Red Square is a must-see for every visitor who are coming to Moscow. But in the old days, actually, that was really just a market here, where merchants from all over the world came just to trade. And in the Soviet times, when the Lenin's mausoleum was built here, that became an ideological center of all Soviet Union. Soviet Russia, as I can say like that. So after that, they decided to use the square as a place for the victory parades, which are taking place every year. So as you can see, those tribunes, those banners and decorations on the Red Square right now, they are actually preparing for the upcoming event, which is the Victory Parade, which was postponed from the 9th of May to the 24th of June. So we are going to have this parade because of the coronavirus. We didn't manage to do this on time on the 9th of May. So it is going to be on the 24th of June. One very interesting fact about the parade and the Red Square in general is that in the Soviet Union times, their government of the country they wanted and they were really thinking about demolishing some of their beautiful buildings of the Red Square, for example, the St. Basil's Cathedral, just to give space to the heavy vehicle of those parade techniques, which is usually coming and passing the Red Square. Luckily, they didn't manage, so that's why we have really a chance to see the beautiful and marvelous monuments of the Red Square. One more very interesting fact and story which happened on the Red Square is from the really lately times. That was in the 1987, and this story is connected with a 19 years old German guy. So he was an unprofessional pilot who managed to fly and land nearby the Red Square on his plane. So nobody knows till now how this 19 years old guy managed to pass the defense system of the Soviet Union at those times army and to cross the borders and land here. But this is really a true story. So one more thing which I would like to share with you about Red Square is actually the name of it, because we all know that it's called red, but not all of the people understand why is it called red. In general, that has nothing with communism, Soviet Union, or the color of the stone, because originally their name of their the word red in their old Russian language has the similar roots as the word beautiful. So in the old times the square was called red not because of the color, but because in that way they were calling her beautiful square. So this is their answer to the question, why is it called red? But another interesting thing is that the beautiful women of those times were also called red women. So here you can find out the similarity between the name of the Red Square and beautiful women at those times. One very important thing is nowadays nobody call here in Russia beautiful woman red woman. So if you're going to make a compliment to a girl here, I think you should probably choose another one, because nobody will probably understand you here. So, but as the time is flying, we're going to move on, and I will focus your attention only on a couple of our things here on Red Square, because unfortunately we are not able to look all around. The time is really short. So, but I will tell you more about one very famous highlights, two very famous highlights, which are really top two in my personal list. And we are going to start with you from St. Basil's Cathedral. We're coming closer to it, for you to see it better. So St. Basil's Cathedral actually is a church, but not one church, but 9 churches which were built, one nearby another, and then connected with the special galleries. One very interesting legend with the St. Basil's Cathedral is telling us the story that when it was built, the Russian king at those times, he was impressed with the building so much that he decided to blind the architects of St. Basil's Cathedral so they could not build this beautiful building somewhere else. So this is supposed to be a legend, but a very interesting fact about this particular highlight of Red Square. One more thing which I want to tell you about this cathedral is the meaning of the colors of domes of St. Basil's Cathedral, which are, just a second, we have a soundtrack here going behind, yeah. So, why the colors of the domes of St. Basil's Cathedral are different, and why the shape is different. So, as you can see, one of the domes, which is looking just at us, is blue and it's smooth. The legend is telling us that it is because the dome is looking to the north side, in north direction, so that's why north is always connected with ice, with cold, and that's why it's blue. One more, which is looking to their east direction, and which is green, is showing us the direction of their Siberian marvelous forests, and that's why it's supposed to be green. One more main dome of the cathedral, which is not unfortunately very visible from this side, but which is just behind of the cathedral, has a red color because it's really looking to the southern direction, and as you know, south is always connected with warm, heat and red color, so that's why the third dome is red colored. But the fourth dome, which is looking to a western side, which you can see here, it is only the one main dome of the cathedral, which has thorns. Because as you can see, others are smooth, and only this one has those very dangerous looking thorns. But the question is why? Why the architects decided to build it right like that, and why they decided to, hello everyone who joined, why architects decided to make thorns only on one particular dome? And the answer is actually in the direction of this dome. In the western side, they were at those times. Western side was at those times the direction to the greatest and biggest army of Russia of those times, which was Poland. Poland was really a big enemy of Russia at those times, and that's why, in that way, they were showing the direction to the biggest army and to where the enemy can come from. Just a fact, one more fact about this Poles invention period is only the one statue on the whole square is the statue which is in front of St. Basil's Cathedral, which is unfortunately not very well seen right here. But this is the monument to two defenders of the Moscow city during the Poles invention of 1612. So this beautiful, beautiful monument and architects, we can look a little bit more. Meanwhile, we're moving on and going closer to our second point which is of course Gloom department store. Meanwhile, as I'm speaking, I'm putting on my gloves and my mask because, as you know, we all have to wear this when we enter the stores. And I will tell you the history of Gloom department store for a bit. So in general, this particular building is pretty new. It is only, as I can say so, only 130 years old, because the original one, which was built in the old times, was destroyed during the fire during their war with Napoleon. So this building is pretty new, but at the same time it's much more marvelous and beautiful comparing with the previous one. So an interesting fact about Gloom department store is that during the Soviet times, in the Soviet Union, there was really problems with getting food and clothes. So people had and Gloom department store actually was only the one of the few where people could really buy some products, some clothes and some things for themselves. So that was very usual to see big queues around Moscow Red Square nearby Gloom. Just people were standing here and waiting for their turn to come inside. And this could be like for hours or even days. So meanwhile, I've put my gloves on and we are coming closer to the entrance of the Gloom. As we are coming closer to the Gloom entrance, I want to pay your attention to the beautiful roof of that building, to the ceiling. Because in general, this particular ceiling was made by Russian Leonardo da Vinci, Vladimir Shukhov, who is one of the most famous Russian architects of those times. And in general, at those times, that was really an innovative miracle, because actually their weight of their roof is almost 800 tons, which is a lot for the roof. But with the help of this beautiful construction, it doesn't look heavy at all, and it gives lots of space and light. So what I really advise you to do when you will be in Moscow, please pay attention for your Localie to show you for the buildings and projects of that particular architect, Vladimir Shukhov, because he is really the innovator of his times. Meanwhile, as we are walking with you, we are coming closer to one more secret of Moscow City, which I promised to tell you. And this is where you can find and try the tastiest ice cream in all the city. And this particular, as I can say, cabin is where you can buy their Soviet Union recipe ice creams, which is made specially for Room department store. As you can see, there are lots of different flavors, which are like blueberry, strawberry, melon, vanilla, chocolate, mint, and many others. So I think it's almost 10. And one more important thing is that it's pretty cheap. It's around only €1. So even if you're not an ice cream lover, I really strongly recommend you to try, because here, hi guys, because here, hi. So here, you can really try, it's really worth to try. So I promise you that will be one of the best investments of €1 in your life. So as you can see, lots of people really appreciate and taking ice cream. Let's imagine that we grabbed an ice cream with you too and move on in our excursion. So of course, nowadays, Room department store turned into a luxury point. So as you can easily see, there is some well-known world brands. But it's not just a department store, because actually this is really a miracle of the architecture. And here you can not only buy something, but also just enjoy, and in fact make some nice pictures, because GUM is one of their hello everyone who joined because GUM is really one of the places where which is really perfect for making some photo sessions and some photos, especially the wedding couples. As I know, they love GUM a lot. So as you can see, there are lots of beautiful galleries and bridges, and wow, it's really marvelous. Meanwhile, as we are coming along the GUM department store, I will tell you one more thing, which is GUM is very famous for. Actually, GUM is a very romantic place, because here, in the center of it, is one of the most famous meeting points of the Soviet Union times for the dates, for the couples and for the dates. So just imagine, in the Soviet Union times, when nobody had phones or WhatsApp, so when a couple wanted to meet each other and they wanted to make a date somewhere in a nice place, so they told each other, let's meet at the fontaine. So just a comment from my side. In Moscow there are lots of different fontaines, and well, which particular fontaine they were talking about, it's not very obvious, I would say like that. But we are speaking about one particular fontaine, which is in the heart of GUM department store. So this was their main meeting point for all the couples in the Soviet Union time. So just imagine this place with lots of couples around, kissing, hugging, romantic. So as you can see here, there is also some things sold to grab and eat, some Soviet style drinks. I think there is also one cabin for the ice cream, with the ice cream. But I want to also pay your attention that just nearby here, there is a very well-known grocery store, which is made in a Soviet Union style. And there, actually, you can buy very good souvenirs and presents to take with you, because they are made, in fact, in a very Soviet style, as I can say this. Well, sometimes I imagine myself like I'm in a theater looking at those marvelous lamps and walls and columns. Well, it's really beautiful. So we move on, as the time is really flying, and we have a couple of things to see with you during today's session, during today's tour. So as you can see, as I told you, of course today it's a department store with a lot of different shops. By the way, I want to remind you that if you are interested in some questions about our tour, or Russia or Moscow, you are free to write it down in a chat. So for the moment, we're just walking around listening to the music, and at the same time we're coming closer to one of the main tourist attractions of GUM. So if you thought that fountain is the main attraction. You were wrong. So just imagine how many beautiful pictures you can do somewhere here in the corridors of Tgum. Really fantastic. So meanwhile, we are really very close to one of the most famous tourist attractions of all the Gum department store. So maybe you can guess what it is? I'm pretty sure you will not. So we're coming closer to the exit, but at the same time to this particular thing, which I want to show you and tell a little bit more. So we're coming closer, and we're almost there. So one of the main tourist attractions in all the Gum department is a historic toilet. So I just want to ask you, please do not think that it's a joke. It's in real. The historical toilet of all the Gum department is one of the biggest tourist attraction, because inside you can find golden details, some marvelous marble panels, some leathern sofas, wooden floors. So if you've never been to the historical toilet of Gum department store, you don't know what luxury is. I want to pay you attention that the entrance is not for free, so there is a fee, which is around 2 euros. But comparing with Europe, where I think all the toilets are around €1. So here, for 2, you can have golden details and beautiful pictures on the walls. So one of the biggest tourist attractions. Meanwhile, we are coming out with you and going to one of the most beautiful streets of Russia, which is called Nikolskaya Street. I turn on my camera for you to enjoy it even more. Just a second. So here it is. Nikolskaya Street actually is pretty short. It's only 1 kilometer long, but at the same time, for my opinion, here on that street, really every building is breathing with the history. Moreover, for my opinion, the street is very diverse, because here you can find not only some souvenir shops, some cafes or bars, but at the same time, on the territory of Nikolskaya Street, there you can find just on the left side the working men's monastery, which is over there. If you pay attention to the building with our red roof, this is a working monastery. One more tip which I want to give you, if you come to Moscow, if you have time and if you're interested in the architect, please try to visit one of the churches in Moscow, especially in the city center, because in the Russian Christian religion, which is, in the religion, their appearance of the inside of the churches, if I can say, it's very wealthy, so it's very posh, so it's very different from the Catholic or Protestant churches, and it's really worth to see. So some of them are pretty old, they are also breathing with the history, and if you want to see something very, very Russian and very, I would say, unique, so please spend just a couple of minutes and have a chance to look at the inside. So here is the monastery which I was talking about. It is opened right now, by the way. Here is the door open. So if you would be here, I think I would propose you to spend some time and come inside. So as you can see on the sides, by the way, on the side there were lots of different shops, but after the coronavirus quarantine story, lots of them had to close, unfortunately. So that's why we have lots of stories like that, the closed windows and nothing instead for the while, I hope. but we are coming closer to the middle of the street. And meanwhile, I want to tell you about one particular building of Nikolskaya Street. Well, first I want to tell you another thing, which is that Nikolskaya Street during the Euro 2018 World Football Cup, that was a non-official fan zone for all the fans from all over the world. So they came here on Nikolskaya Street and celebrated the victories of their teams. So that was really a non-official fan zone of all their World Football Cup, which was in Russia in 2018. So maybe you have noticed those beautiful lights on the roof of the street, which are there. Actually, they turn them on only during the Christmas time. So now if you will come here when it's dark, unfortunately they will be not sparkling. But if you come to Russia during the Christmas time, it's really beautiful here because all those lights turn on and it's a miracle. Beautiful photos, beautiful time. So for me, this is really a street where you should make a proposal for your girlfriend if you want to. So meanwhile, we are coming closer to their building which I told you about, which I wanted to tell you a little bit more. And which is actually just a pharmacy. I will not call it just a pharmacy, not that one, but it's a historical building which is called Pharmacy Number 1. And this building has a very huge history and very high importance in the story of all the country, and you will understand why. So we're coming closer to that. And I'll start my story from the end of the 19th century, when Russia had a war. Of course, when there was a war, so it's the beginning of the 20th century. I'm sorry, the First World War. So Germany is one of the biggest enemies of Russia in this war, and of course, all the tradings between those two countries has stopped. And Germany, in fact, was the biggest importer for Russia in terms of all the treatments and medical things. So that's why that was strategically important to have something instead. And in fact, that particular story and building, which I'm going to show you and tell about, is about Thornes Pharmacy, which is now called Pharmacy Number 1. So the building was built at the end of 19th century, and in general it was not just one building and one store, but it was really a Thornes corporation which had more than 600 employees. Wow, here comes the music. So let me pass their singing guy, otherwise I think you will hear nothing. Meanwhile, by the way, you can enjoy his song. Actually, this is very usual for this period of time and this street because still there are lots of people singing here. So just a couple of seconds and we will pass the singing guy and continue our tour. So I hope you can hear me better now. Speaking about continuing the story about their building number 21, which is on the left side of it and which is even visible right now, and we're coming closer to that. So this building was built at the end of the 19th century, and first it was the pharmacy of Thornes family. And in those times it was not just one store and one pharmacy, but it was really a corporation which had more than 600 employees and which was producing more than 300 different types of the medicine. So what I was talking about in terms of the strategical meaning of the building and the corporation itself is that when the Germany stopped the trading with Russia in terms of medicine, the Thornes company really saved the country with the internal production of the medicine. And nobody knows how many people could die if, well, we will not have that particular pharmacy number 1. And in fact, at the end of 19th century, Florence pharmacy was the biggest one in all the Europe. So you can imagine how big was the production and the amount of medicine they produced. So this building, we're coming closer. House number 21, which is actually also a kind of monument, architectural monument in general, because it's beautiful inside and outside. So the story tells us that during the 1915 it was pharmacy number 1, but then Florence family had to move to Paris, and pharmacy number 1 became a governmental and was working as a pharmacy till 2000. This is that particular building. So you can see it from here. So it was working till 2000, and then it was closed, and now it's a baccarat shop, as you can see. So it's not a pharmacy anymore. But all the people and all the citizens of Moscow know this particular building as pharmacy number 1. And now you can understand why and find out a little bit about the history of that beautiful building. So in that way, we are coming to the exit from Nikolskaya Street with you and coming closer to the next point of our tour, which is actually Lubyanka Square, one of the most famous squares in all Moscow. Meanwhile, I remind you about questions. If you'd like to ask something, please feel free and put it right down in the chat. So actually, there are not so many people on the streets, I would say, right now, because usually in a non-quarantine times, it's really, I would say, twice more people on the streets than now. So now it's pretty a lot, but still, it's not so crowded as usual, I would say. So we are coming closer, and now we are almost on Lubyanka Street, which is really huge. But today I would like to pay your attention to one particular building on that square and tell you a little bit more about it. And this building is that particular and middle of the square. So do you have any guesses what that can be? So in general, it is 25,000 square meters, 7 floors high. So in some countries that could be really a house of parliament, but not in Russia. So in Russia, that building is in general toys department store. So can you imagine all the 7 floors of the building are full of different toys? But this is not the only one thing which is very interesting for us. We are interested in one more thing, and that's why I invite you to enter the building and see what is inside. Now there is going to be a huge tunnel. You should pass it. I'm so sorry, guys. I promise it will be the first and last tunnel during the tour and the most unfancy part of it, but then we will see lots of interesting things with you. So just a minute and we'll be there. So coming, running to the next interesting point. A warm welcome to all who joined the tour. We're walking with you in the city center of Moscow with the Localie Masha. And now going closer to the central toys department store, which is that particular building. So here we are. A little bit later, I will tell you why I want to pay your attention and really invite you to see what is inside. So let's come inside. So because it's my first time. So here we're coming. And what I want to pay your attention to from the start is that particular huge watch. That one. Because actually this is the biggest mechanical watch in the world. And this watch is in top 5 most famous watches, as long as Big Ben, or maybe the watches on the Prague Tower, or Kuranty on Spasskaya Tower and Red Square. But this is really marvelous and the biggest one. And from here, there is the best viewpoint for this. But if you want to pay attention to the details and see all the mechanisms, it's better to go upstairs to the 5th floor. And there, from the transparent glass, you will see all of it inside. Here. But this is not the only one thing which is the biggest in the world in that particular department. And we're coming closer to the second one. So don't worry, it's not we're not going to buy something with you here. Otherwise we'll spend hours, because really this department store is a paradise not only for kids but also for adults. There are lots of things here, really lots of things. So coming closer, I show you a bit. How many degrees do you have now in Moscow? Thanks for the question. It's around 20 degrees, and we're really very lucky, because before that was like raining all the week long, and that was not more than 15 degrees. So as we're coming up, I want to show you another biggest thing, which is that particular Lego model. This Lego model is almost 20 meters high and is made of 2 million parts. And this is actually the biggest Lego model in the world. And this Lego model is in the Moscow toys department store. Yes, in Russian it's called Cathedral. That's it. So we need a 6th floor. And I will show you the thing which we actually came for. So meanwhile, thanks a lot for your questions. Okay, here we are. So we are on the 6th floor of the department and coming closer to the thing which I wanted to show and share with you, which is actually the route to the panorama, one of the best panoramas in all the Moscow city center. And in a few minutes we'll be there. Meanwhile, I show you the beautiful roof of that department store, which is full of pictures from different Soviet Union cartoons. So the building itself is also very beautiful. So I strongly recommend just to take some time and to walk around this department store, because it's really the miracle of architecture itself. But we are here and now today for the panorama view, and we're coming closer to that. I have never had a chance to visit it. I strongly recommend, because I don't know why, but many people didn't know about this place and have never been here. But I will tell you what is the main thing here. Hello, можно один билет, пожалуйста? Да. So the entrance is around 50 euro cents, which is pretty cheap. So we're going to pay. And by the way, this ticket includes also the entrance to the childhood museum, which I will tell you a little bit about in a few minutes. Спасибо большое. Спасибо вам тоже. Good price, a very good price, guys. And when you will see the panorama view, you will understand it even more. So we are going up. Meanwhile, I remind you that this ticket, which is only 50 rubles, includes the entrance to the panorama, to all the Moscow city center, and also the entrance to the Toys Museum, Childhood Museum, how they call it. So a few meters more, and we are there. So unfortunately now the museum is closed because we didn't have the museums opened yet because of the coronavirus story. Here it is, just in a few minutes, in a few meters from us. One of the best panoramas to all the city center of Moscow. As I know, this observation deck was for free 1 year ago. That's a very good question. I also knew this, and I was surprised when I was coming here before the tour but as I know, they have it for almost a year. So yes, it's not for free, unfortunately. But to be honest, this view worth to pay 50 cents. From here you can see all the buildings of the Moscow city center. And as you remember, we came from there, from Red Square. Yes, it's beautiful, really. Moreover, I can say that here, what they did very well, here are the information both on English and Russian about the buildings, which you can see from the panorama. So which is very useful and convenient. So here you can read a little bit about all the buildings. And actually, maybe you can find something here and then find it on the panorama, or vice versa. So, all beautiful view. Yeah, guys, it's really beautiful. Not all the people know about it, so lots of people are searching for the best panoramas in the cities. But I can say that this one is really one of the best in Moscow City. So, meanwhile, we are coming closer to another side of panorama, and I will tell you why. So unfortunately no panorama here, but a few meters more and a big letters. Yeah, for sure, guys, for sure. Yes, so they did it really very convenient for the tourists, so I strongly recommend to come here. So here it is another part of the panorama. We are very lucky it's not there is nobody here, I would say. And what I want to pay your attention for is that the walls of this panorama, they're transparent. So you can easily do a perfect selfie here with a view to the Moscow city center. So just come and make a selfie from this particular viewpoint. But this is not the end of our tour, because I have a question to you guys. Why do you think all the walls in this panorama are transparent and only one part of it, the last one, is not transparent, it's higher and not transparent at all? So for example, from this point you can make a perfect selfie, and from this point you can do nothing. Just a couple of meters. Why it is so? Why they are not allowed? It is not allowed to do a picture over here. Why it's hidden from the tourists? Actually, the answer is in the building, which is hidden behind of this wall. I'm trying to show you as much as I can, but this joyful red building, very huge one on Lubyanka Square, actually is the center, the central office, as I can say this, of FSB, which was a KGB in the past. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, it's our version of FBI. Yeah, KGB, yeah, that particular building. Very joyful, very yellow. In the past, people were speaking about this building, that this is the house which you could enter as a free person and exit as a prisoner. So as you can understand, those guys are not very welcome, all the tourists, to observe them from this particular viewpoint. So that's why it's hidden from the tourists. So if you wanted to go here and make a selfie with there at that particular point, I have a bad news for you guys. But at least now you know why it's hidden. So because of that particular part of the building. So actually, with this beautiful panorama view of the city, I would like to end my tour and say you big thanks for your attention and time. Well, I strongly recommend you to come and visit Moscow, because it's really a marvelous city, full of different things to see and try. And I also want to invite you to join the project of Localie, to help us make it better and to become a patron of the project. All the information you can easily find on the website of Localie. So what I can promise to you guys is that if the Localie project will have only 10 more patrons, I will make one more tour for you and tell you more things, interesting things about the city, and share more tips with you, which are, for example, who do we call Seven Sisters of Moscow? Or we will speak a little bit more about very memorable places in terms of the bars, streets of bars and cafes. And of course I will tell you more about one of the wonders of Moscow, which is the Moscow subway. So come to the Localie website and join us as a patron. Thanks a lot to you guys for the tour. For those who joined it and who was listening to this attentive, I wish you a very good day and a nice rest of the weekend. Thanks a lot. Ciao.